Morning Catechism and to this wonderful season in which we, for 50 days, celebrate the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. How about going on a retreat? Let's go on a retreat for these next few weeks. By that I mean let's take one beautiful Easter story and let's walk through it piece by piece, and at the end of it we'll look back, because we've just covered the Passover and the Last Supper. At the end of this story, we'll look back and say, now what connection does this story and all the reflections on it have to do with the Mass? And the story we're going to take is the story of the disciples on the road to Emmaus. And for today, this Easter week, we'll simply take the first two verses. The story is from Luke's Gospel, chapter 24, beginning with verse 13. And so we'll look at verses 13 and 14 for today. Now that very day, two of them were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus. And they were conversing about all the things that had occurred. Okay, so they were coming from Jerusalem. What do we know about Jerusalem? It is the holy city. It is where the temple was, where the chief priests and the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin had just been involved in condemning Jesus to death. It was the place where Pontius Pilate lived, and where there was a palace overlooking the temple, so that the Roman soldiers could make sure that the people were not interfering with the running of the Roman government. Remember, at the time of Jesus, the Roman Empire controls all of the land around the Mediterranean Sea. Israel is a tiny country, just a part of that empire, but Roman soldiers were posted everywhere in the empire to make sure that the people behaved, that they didn't try to overthrow the Roman government. The disciples are leaving Jerusalem because to them it's all over. Jesus, whom some considered a prophet, whom some were ready to believe was the Messiah, had been killed. So he's been buried. Why stick around? It's all over. And they were heading toward a town called Emmaus. What do you know about Emmaus? It is not a Jewish town. It is a Roman town. And they were heading in that direction. What does this symbolize for us? Jerusalem for us could symbolize some of our hopes and dreams. And the fact that those dreams may have been shattered. Where is that Jerusalem in your life? Where is the place where you hoped your dreams could be fulfilled? Where life would have all of its meaning? And you were disappointed because there was some kind of death involved. Maybe a real death of a loved one, maybe a huge disappointment, maybe some kind of interference. Something got in the way of what you had hoped would come true. The Emmaus in our lives can represent the secular culture in which we live. And if we're journeying between the two, where do we tend to lean? Toward the Jerusalem that we want to walk away from because we've lost some meaning? Or do we want to lean toward the secular culture and all of its values? So like the two disciples on the road to Emmaus, remember, they're always on the road. We journey with them. Where are we? In which direction do we tend to want to move? I leave you with some questions. What is that Jerusalem that I want to leave behind? What mystery have I confronted there and I can't make sense of it? In what ways am I drawn toward the empire, that town of Emmaus that represents the secular culture? And which of its values do I seek?
Hallelujah, our triumphant